And today we're going to be talking about argparse in Python. Argparse has several goals that it has. The first goal is its primary use is to pass information from the command line to the program. And it generally follows the new command line conventions, which will make your code easier for your users to learn. Now, why is that? The reason why it makes it easier for your users to learn your command when you use argparse is that it's consistent with the other programs. And you want to make that a goal as you're developing to make your software consistent with other things in the marketplace, and that way it's easier for people to adopt it and to learn how it operates. Now, it is possible that you could code arguments manually by using sysargv, but the problem with that, there's actually two big problems with that. Number one is it would take you more time to code that into your software. The other thing is it's so easy for you to get your own style of what arguments are expected, and again, it makes it harder for your software to be adopted by the user community. Now, there are two types of arguments that argparse handles. One of them is called a position argument. The other one is options. Now, position arguments are always required, and if the user leaves them out, then they end up getting an error message. And an option argument is not required by default, but it can be specified as required. Now, to get argparse, to use argparse in your code, the first thing you have to do is you have to import argparse into your source code. And you then create a parser object, and it takes several options here. You can set prog equals a particular name for your program, and that is oftentimes we call a particular program one thing when it's delivered to the user, but in the development cycle, you may have like V1, V2, V3, V4, etc. at the end of it. And this way, it is designating what the actual deliverable name of the software is going to be. And on our little example program that I've got here, that I've written, I'm calling it dev money. And notice that I've got a description that describes what dev money actually does. And I've got something really interesting here called the epilogue. And what that does is that is the last line of the help file that gets displayed. And this, of course, is what that looks like when it executes. Now, notice that it tells what the official name of the software is, gives what kind of options you can give when you execute it, gives the developer name here, the hourly rate, and what those options are on the hourly rate. It tells what the software does. It gives its positional arguments. It lists its options arguments. And again, it has the epilogue information we gave right here at the last line. Okay, and again, notice that there's where the official program name is told, the description for the software, what the epilogue is going to be, we've got the help field set, which is displayed in the help. The user gives the help option. The important thing about argparse is that if you've got required information that the user must give and they do not give it, it gives them an error message and tells them what they left out. And here we see where I have left out the hours per week. And they are told that is what has happened. Here's where it has in the positional argument, the hours per week, and they have to give a choice of one of these days. And because we're using the range there, it is only going to accept full hourly days. Now, let's see what happens if we give an invalid choice. Notice that I had said that we have it set up to where you have to give full hourly days, and we gave 9 hours, which is 1 hour more than an hourly day. So the user gets an error message because they gave an invalid choice in that argument. And right here, where it says choices equals, and then the range, that is where that is limiting the hours per week to only full days. Okay, now it's also, this is what it looks like when the user gives enough data and accepts the default. They have said that this programmer gets $45 an hour. He worked 8 hours. His weekly rate is $360. And we see here, that's where that is set up inside of the argparse section of our code. Now, it's also possible, not every programmer is a contractor, not every one of them is a particular employee of the company. And we have this option flag, which is not required, but if you give it, it sets it true, and it has been set true, so contractor displays. And if you'll see here, that's where we are setting there. Notice how it says action equals store true. And that is how we set the contractor to be a true thing. They have set the hourly rate. They've said this person has worked 8 hours, and they've said they're a contractor. So that's what it displays. And again, that's where that information is set up to be accepted, and that's where they were able to set the contractor. Now, it's also possible to have optional data that can be set in the code. And here we see we are setting the optional data for the year. Okay, now the current year, the option for the current year is set right here. Notice where it says -y. It's not required, but if you put a -y, then you can then enter the current year. Want to thank you for listening to the video and keep learning.